Marriage is about communication, learning to love and accept someone during the good and the bad times, and learning to communicate how you feel when issues arise that may irritate you. Today we learn that till death do us part can be more horrific than you could imagine. Okay, let's go. On Thursday, 20th of August 2020, a 911 call was received in which the person stated that they were at North 225 West Road. US, you've got to get better street names. I'm sorry. Which was just to the west, obviously, of Crawfordsville, Indiana, US of A. They were freaking out a bit because they saw what looked like a body hanging off the bridge. Whilst on the call to operators, another driver pulled up and asked the caller if they were okay. And the interaction is kind of funny, not ha-ha funny, but you can listen to it online. The caller was like, no, I'm on the phone to police, there's a dead body over there. Freaking out a bit, okay. The driver was like, oh, nah, girl, that was just a deer, but I'll go check it out for you. In fact, it was not a deer, and police urgently swarmed the Sugar Creek Bridge at around 5 a.m. Sure enough, officers would arrive at a rather confronting and horrific scene. Instead of being a deer or roadkill, they found the headless body of a middle-aged woman. Her body badly bruised, her arms and legs bent at weird angles, hence the initial mistake of possibly being a deer, I guess. Officers stated her body had been stuffed underneath the guardrail so that her top half was on the road while her legs were just kind of hanging off the side.
Just so I can paint a picture for myself.
Yeah.
In the only way I know how. So she wasn't hanging from the bridge in the sense that she was completely suspended, like swinging from under it. There was a part of her that was still on the bridge, but she was like balanced.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, so it's kind of like as if you're hanging off the bridge.
But pinned under the rail, minus the head.
So yeah, I don't know how her body stayed like that. Maybe because it was wedged between the rail, that the top half, I don't know.
There's that, and then there's rigor mortis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now the police had the difficult task of working out what happened to this woman in a small town of like 16,000 people. So it's very small. Like, I'm sure they have seen some gruesome car crashes in rural areas, but surely not to this extent.
Nothing like that.
So they're working out what is happening, and around the same time, a resident was making a 911 call to report his wife missing. He stated his name was Michael Parks, and that he and his wife, Hope Parks, kind of got into an argument on Tuesday the 18th, so like 2 days prior, and he hasn't seen her since then, and he is now getting a bit worried. He was sure to tell the operator that she got into a car with somebody and they just left. He was transferred to a sergeant at the Crawfordsville Police Department to give a brief description of Hope, his wife. In this description were some tattoos that she had that may help identify her a bit better. It wasn't long before Michael was asked to come down to the station to speak more about her disappearance. When Michael arrived, he was informed by officers that a headless woman was found this morning, and she matched the description of his missing wife, although they're yet to confirm who the woman is. So also part of me, it's like, what if that wasn't his wife? And you're just like, just to let you know, we found someone that might fit the description.
I honestly, that scares the out of me. Can you imagine going through the heartbreak, the anxiety, the fear, all that kind of go down, and then it's not even your partner, your wife or anything?
Immediately, he was taken into a room where an officer advised that he records everything because his notes suck. So, FYI, you're being recorded, bruh.
Who said that?
The police officer.
Oh, I thought Michael was like,
Nah.
I'm recording you.
I'm recording you.
But also, aren't most of them just recorded anyway? Do they have to tell them that it's recorded?
Yeah, I think they do. They took him into a soft room. So like a soft interrogation room where it's literally just like a couch and a chair. So normally for like witnesses.
I see. So it's because they've got two different kinds that they have. There's one where you're not a suspect and they want you to feel comfortable, whatever. And then there's the other one where you feel like you're kind of enclosed and you're trapped and that kind of stuff. It's all psychological.
Yeah, it's crazy, hey, what they actually do. It's not just sitting down and going, tell me what you know.
Yeah.
It's like all set up. So yeah, I'm not too sure if they did this because they thought he was a suspect or if it's just more like come into the room, got bad news kind of thing. Michael goes on to tell officers that he's worried about his wife. They'd been arguing over their son for the last couple of months. But he didn't refer to it as their son. He was like, my son. So I'm like, I don't know if that was just how he spoke. We do not get a full picture of his son, but we start to learn that he's on and off drugs, can't keep a job, and he was kicked out of home for bringing drugs into their house.
As in the son?
Yeah. So this is where Michael and Hope would argue because she wanted to have him in the house, and what I can only assume is trying to help her son. Michael made a bold statement to the officer and said, "It got to the point where I told her to choose between me or him. One of us has to go." You are literally asking your wife to choose you or your son.
Yeah.
I brought this up with Andrew and he's like, "Who would you choose?" And I'm like, "Kids," like within seconds. And I'm like, if you don't choose the kids over me, there's something wrong with you.
I'm about to take you to church. At church, in the Bible, because remember I was mega Christian at one point, they were talking about the relationships that you have within the family. And I'm not going to preach at you because neither of us are Christian. However, basically the husband had to have a solid relationship with God, but he had to put his spouse before his children. She had to do the same thing.
Oh.
So that is something that was, at least in the Pentecostal denomination,
Yeah, right.
your spouse comes first, your children come second.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know what religion when they were, but that then could make sense if
Could make sense if one of them followed that. It could also just be the drugs talking.
Yeah, it's just,
It's weird.
it's very weird.
I agree though, like if I had kids, I don't want kids.
Yeah.
But if I had children
Yeah.
and I had to choose between a person or my babies,
Yeah.
that person can get out of my house.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
That's right. Or don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the son left.
Oh. But
So-
on his own volition? Was he
assume.
like, this, I'm out?
Yeah. I don't know whether he got kicked out and they were just kind of like, oh, Dad will get over it, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
just,
because it could be pretty confusing too, because maybe the dad did kick him out, and the mum was like, "No, Steady's like, I'm going."
Hope obviously wanted her child back home. And I mean, Michael makes it clear that he does not like his son when he states to the officer, "I want to hurt him. I hate to say this and have it on recording, but I do. I want to hurt him. That's why he had to leave."
Hold on, just to get this clear. So he's in an interview. There's a dead person, and he's talking about wanting to hurt someone.
The final straw would come in a speeding ticket. The son had the car that he'd paid for bought off his mum, but never changed it over, so it was in Hope's name. Michael had told his wife to cancel the insurance, which she never did, and bam, argument. The officer asked Michael, "Does your wife have any alcohol or drug issues?" Michael replies, no, and after a short pause he says, "She's very controlling. You know, she's very clean and controlling of everybody, but I'm used to it." With the officer being like, well, 25 years. As the conversation continues, we find out from Michael that he has anger issues, but he takes medication for it, but I've never done anything. I've never hurt anyone.
Pause. Can you, there's no medication for an angry person.
Yeah.
There's therapy.
He says so.
Oh, because Michael Park says that he pops a pill so he's not a giant raging We have to believe him that he's on meds. Do you know what I would have done if I were the cops? I would have been, awesome. What meds do you want? Tell me them.
Yeah, so you take medication for your anger.
Show me your prescription. And then also you're talking about wanting to hurt someone. Then you're complaining about your wife, who is currently missing, quite honestly dead at this point, without a head. So how is this anger management thing working, buddy?
Things not to say when getting interrogated.
Do you want to look guilty?
Yeah.
I mean, joke's on me. Laugh if it's not even him this whole time. Anyway, play.
Obviously, I'm sure by now the picture I'm painting is of an angry husband who is over it and has had enough of his controlling wife and his son. So the couple do have a daughter together as well, and I'm not sure on the ages, but we do find out that Michael and his daughter are extremely close, and his wife and son are close, with them confiding in one another, and Michael even stating she would do anything for him, and that's what makes him mad.
Hold on. That Hope would do anything for her son. Would he
Made
not
him
do
mad.
anything for his daughter if he's that close with her?
When I was going into this case, I was like, before you told me about the Bible stuff, in my mind I was like, is Michael jealous of his son getting attention that he's not?
But that's also quite possible.
Yeah.
And that would make sense too, especially, again, if he gave her an ultimatum. it's him or me, Dal.
Yeah.
It's him or me.
Like, don't be jealous of your son. That's your son.
That's your child. Be proud of what you made
Exactly.
and uplift him. And you know what? If you'd actually shown more love and sympathy to him, he may not have been searching outside of the family and like turned to drugs. How about that? Did you think about that, Michael Parks?
The officer tries to find out more about what happened the night of their argument, with Hope hopping into another car. And of course, Michael had no idea who the driver was, man or woman, or what they looked like. No clue.
What the car looked like.
He didn't believe his wife would ever step outside of their marriage or run off and start a new life. And although Michael had originally given her until Friday to calm down and return home, it was his emotions that made him decide to call police earlier, because he was very worried. This was unusual for her to be away for so long with no contact.
You have until Friday.
Yeah, you leave this house, you have until Friday.
You sort your out, you come home, you be the wife I want you to be.
Who's the controlling one here, Michael? Because you have done nothing but complain about your dead wife or missing wife, you know?
Well, I mean, some would say one and the same.
Yeah. Michael is advised that they may have found Hope. However, they're still looking into it and confirming a few things, but gosh, people who are being recorded need to learn how to act or how to look shocked when you just find out that your missing wife has been found headless on a bridge. Like, I don't know, maybe just me. Conversation then moves on to paperwork side of things, you know, getting info and then consent to search Michael's house and car, because the police need to find out more info, because right now we don't have a lot to go off. Michael consents to having these items searched, and with his consent, they don't need a search warrant, which I never knew that was a thing, but it makes sense.
If you get permission,
yeah,
then you don't need to force it.
Yeah.
Plus, warrants take a long time, especially subpoena.
He agrees, and police were over there right away. Like, I'm pretty sure they were probably standing outside of his house waiting for the clear, and then, because it's being recorded.
If you just got, like, carte blanche to look, you would head there straight away.
So they start searching everything while he's still at the police station on a little break in between his interview. Part of me also wonders, did he know what was happening? Like, did he actually realise that they were at his house right then and there?
Or, I mean, also, like, maybe do you think he thought that they weren't going to pounce on it straight away and it gave him time to go home, clean some shit up, whatever? Nope.
It's happening right now, bud.
Yeah.
Now, some items were found in the house that kind of changed the direction of the questioning. There was questions like, do you know anyone who would want to hurt your wife? Michael's answer was, she knows how to piss people off, I can tell you that. And
Up, Michael!
And he does a little smile. He's like, oh, I don't know, mate, but I can tell you she knows how to piss people off. And it's like, The reply he gets may not be what he was expecting, as the officer answered, she knows how to piss people off, or you know how to piss people off.
Boom.
Yeah, I was like, bam. So he's trying to be just one of the boys, you know?
I'm just trying to be funny. Oh, you know women.
Also, during the search, police found some blood in the house.
Normal.
And it was in the garage.
Normal. The
Yeah.
son's a junkie. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Michael's answer was just, oh, that's just from me cutting myself and working on my car. Did you notice the motor in my car? Like, so he tries talking about his nice car that he's working on.
As if they wouldn't get a swab of that blood.
And why are you trying to get praise from an officer about the car you're working on?
The art of distraction, darling.
Unfortunately for Michael, the officers were not buying this story and told him pretty much man up and tell them what happened, because something happened to Hope at your house. Michael didn't even get upset. He just said, nope, I swear to God, I did not do anything, and just keeps shrugging off the accusations that he may have had a part in her death.
We've spoken about this before, but there's two type of reactions that you will normally see when people are not being honest. One is no reaction about the accusation that you have killed someone or that they're even dead, or someone who tries to dial it up to like 100 and they can't act. And I think we know which like ballpark this falls into.
So there's one thing I forgot to mention earlier. Silly me. They found a lot more than just blood in the house.
Of course they did. Oh, you forgot to mention it.
Oh, me.
You intentionally left it out, and now I want to know.
I'm so silly. They actually found Hope's head. In the basement, in a shallow hole, wrapped in plastic bags, covered in dirt and debris. And then on top of that dirt and debris pile was another pile of like insulation or piping duct things were then over the top of that.
But how'd it get there?
I don't know. How did her head get there?
So we need to believe now, hold on. We need to believe now that someone broke in to the household, to the Parks household. They decapitated her, right? I'm going to say, because you mentioned that her arms were bent in a funny kind of way. Not funny, haha, but just a strange position. That would have happened probably slightly before rigor mortis, because then once rigor mortis kicks in, you're stuck in a particular position. So I don't know if maybe that's because of where he kept the body after he decapitated her. I'm not too sure. Or someone decapitated her, but someone broke into the house, decapitates her. The blood in the thing is obviously hers. Her head's now in the basement. Her body's now on the bridge. But it wasn't Michael. It was the daughter.
You're missing one important part, though.
What?
Michael saw her leave, remember?
Yeah, I'm spitballing here. Like, I'm just trying to figure... I want to get to the bottom of it, because I just really hate when innocent people are falsely accused of crimes.
Michael's an innocent man.
There is nothing in here that has been a red flag this whole time.
Also outside the house, they found, and by they I mean police, found some blood on the gravel, on the garage door, on the grass next to the outside patio, and on the wooden floor of the patio. Oh, and the ramp that leads to the patio. Want me to say patio one more time? There was also blood going down to the cellar or the basement. There was also drag marks along the dirt and bloody zip ties. Michael is still adamant that he had nothing to do with the murder.
Told ya.
Yeah, officers just deeply sigh. They're just like, he's like, I didn't have anything to do with it. And they're like, like you can literally hear it. It's great because they're just over the... Because it's what we're all thinking as well. Like,
Thinking
who
what?
could it be? Who could it be, Michael? If it's not you, who else could it be?
Who could it be? I'm still trying to piece it together.
You know who it is? Michael replies with, talk to my son. I don't know, talk to my son. The audacity of this man.
Full stop.
So he's trying to hint that maybe his son did it.
So now, okay.
Like, I don't know, have you spoken to my son?
Obviously, I was being sarcastic when I said that wasn't him. But now he's trying to push the blame or move the eye of suspicion off him. There's no...
What a great father.
What a great father. But he had also said that his son had left. So he said that. Dad of the year.
Michael then says, I guess this is the part where I need a lawyer because you aren't listening to me. Now is when you need a lawyer, Michael? So because the wording around that was a little, it wasn't I want a lawyer, it was a...
He didn't spit, he was I guess I need one. He didn't ask for legal representation.
So they tried to...
Loophole.
Yeah, they tried to push him a little further before he states, I want a lawyer. Obviously, Michael is put in handcuffs and put into a holding cell. And I know we say this a lot, but watching this interrogation made me think that he actually thought he was going home after this. He looked annoyed that he was getting put in handcuffs.
Well, duh, he didn't do it.
I didn't do it. Police continued searching the house and vehicles and speaking to as many people as they could. And it would end up taking just 4 days for Michael to ask to speak to the officers without a lawyer present. So he's in the holding cell, 4 days to crack. This would be where we hear as close to a confession as we could get from this man. We learned that he got off work early on the Tuesday. The kids came over, and then later Michael and Hope would argue over their son. He then stated he was on the back porch and he was planning on shooting a groundhog because he had a lot of them in the yard. He then shot 3 rounds into the tree. He then went into the house with plans to clean the gun. He sat at the kitchen table to do this, and it just went off. The gun just went off because there was 1 round left in it.
In the chamber. And let me guess.
Cleaning his gun.
It accidentally hit Hope.
So Hope was fixing dinner at the time the gun went off, and she would hit the floor. And this is where Michael panicked. He panicked. There was a lot of blood. So he cleaned it all up, took out the garbage and then everything else, like removing his wife's head, and dumping her body at the bridge. It was all just a blur. Like he just doesn't remember really what happened. He then just sat there and cried. He cried about all the fighting, his son, the gun, and that no one would believe him, that it was all just an accident. Michael, what about your wife, mate? Your wife is dead and you sit there crying
about
because
yourself.
You've shot her.
It's a very woe is me kind of moment with, again, just the reality of what's actually happened. I don't believe his story.
Michael then goes on to explain that he wrapped her up in a tarp and took her down to the basement because he's just freaking out. That's what you do when you freak out. He then cleaned everything up. Officers try to dig a bit into this story by explaining gun residue and how the closer you are when you get shot, the more residue you have, and how Hope had a fair bit of residue around the entry wound, which would indicate she was likely shot at point blank range.
Forensics, I tell you. That would also be a really interesting job, wouldn't it? Forensics. But I think forensics, you probably have to get a little bit more involved with the gooey stuff that I wouldn't want to.
The yucky stuff.
Yeah.
Michael wouldn't budge and said, "No, I did not do it deliberately. I don't know where she was standing, but she was making dinner and the gun went off in my hand."
Whoops.
One of the officers in the room pretty much lays out that there are two options here. One, he either shot his wife close range by accident, or they were arguing and he was angry and shot her. I think within this state, you get a lesser charge if it's proven that you accidentally killed someone. That's just me dumbing it down, obviously. So something in Indiana, it was something like if it could be proven that you accidentally shot them, I think it's manslaughter.
It goes to manslaughter instead of murder.
Yeah.
That makes sense. However, I think that you'd probably find that what you did after would have an impact on whether or not they even found you innocent of like murder but guilty of manslaughter. In that case, if you've literally taken the body, you've moved the body, you haven't called anyone, tampering with the corpse, abusing a corpse, decapitating, so mutilating a corpse, burying part of it, and then moving. What I don't understand is why did he put the body where he put the body? Why? If he buried the head at the house, why did he put the body out there?
I honestly do not. This man is just nuts. Attention then moves to the gun in question. They ask if Michael had any problems with the trigger before or any issues with it, and he goes, "No, not before. I haven't had it for long though, only about a week or a week and a half."
So legitimately had only purchased it about a week ago?
Yeah, why you got a gun all of a sudden? Why are you cleaning it in your house when you don't know how to use a gun? The police tried to get more info about what Michael did to her body. But that old selective memory, you just can't remember that part. Mm-hmm. He did finally agree with the officer that he may have got a bit mad and, the gun accidentally went off. But because they were arguing about their son, he just kind of slammed his fist down and, the gun just went off in his hand unintentionally. So not only is this coward not owning up to the horrific murder of his wife, but he is now trying to say the reason he did it is because of his son. No, sir, you are a piece of poop.
Again, pushing it toward his son.
So, 2020, a little old thing called Le Covid. So, Michael's taken back to jail and was awaiting his trial date on May 9th, 2020. But police ended up finding something that would kind of throw the case in a new direction. Maybe. They had found searches that Michael had done. And I don't know if this was on the phone, computer, whatever.
Well, it was hardly going to be at the library.
Yeah. Prior to his wife's death. And do you want to know what those searches might have been?
How to get away with murder. It could be
how to blame your son for
how to hide a corpse. There could have been so many different things.
I like that direction. It's good thinking that you're going down. So there's two searches. One was for bottle silencers and do they work? And I was like, what the bottle silencer? And it's literally a man-made bottle suppressor of sorts so that the gunshot isn't loud.
It's
just
homemade.
like a Coke bottle. Yeah. Like, okay, all right, Mackel. If that wasn't damning enough, they also found the search of do pillows really silence gunshots? Can anyone say...
Suspicious. Guilty.
Well, they premeditated guilty.
Really have my doubts that he was looking to use a pillow or a Coke bottle when he was shooting the vermin in his yard, right? And I don't mean his wife. I'm talking about like those
bloody groundhogs.
The groundhogs, that's right.
It was the groundhogs in me son. He's on drugs. On May 6, 2022, just a few days before his scheduled trial, Michael changed his plea from not guilty to guilty.
Shock.
He accepted a plea deal, and on May 9th, Michael was found guilty of the murder of his wife, Hope, and was sentenced to 50 years in prison without the possibility of parole, which means he would be 94 years old if he even makes that.
He won't.
He won't. And that, dear mung beans, is the case of Michael Parks, the husband who couldn't help but feel less superior than his son, so had a hissy fit like a little and brutally and cowardly murdered his wife.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie. I knew it was going to be him from the beginning, but only because everything was literally pointing toward him.
Yeah. The frustrating thing for me is the officers made a point of being like, oh, that's just your brain stopping the most gruesome, horrific time in your life, you know, suppressing it from you when he cut her head off. But to me, exactly what you said earlier. Why'd you cut her head off? Why did you put it in your basement? Like, were you just literally freaking out that much that you gone off? And why did you stuff her body over a bridge like that, so open?
But it really doesn't make sense. Like, if you don't want to okay, I need to understand if he killed her, which he did, what would be the purpose of decapitating her anyway? If he was still going to bury her in the basement, he could have just buried her whole body. Because the head is absolutely going to give away who it is, right? So why not bury the whole body? I find the act of decapitating, burying the head, and publicly displaying the body in that kind of manner to be quite baffling. It also tells me that it wasn't someone who panicked and didn't know what they were doing.
Or someone that cared about that person.
Or even gave a fuck.
To kill someone, let alone discard their body like that.
Yeah. Do we know what dates those searches happened? It was obviously prior to the death, right? For the coke bottle and the killer.
Yeah. They found that afterwards.
Yeah.
So because they've literally brought him in, 4 days later he's confessed, and then they're just, I guess, building their case up and stuff, and then that's when, because they wouldn't have seized all his stuff to go through it all, like within
Not
that.
at that point, true.
Yeah.
So when he's going through trial, then they would have subpoenaed everything to have access to it. Right, okay.
There was also mention of she was making burgers or something, and the burgers were like tipped over, or like the stove, or like something had fallen to the ground. I reckon they've argued. He's got knocked something off, probably had the gun still in hand, just out of anger, has shot her. And then he probably has freaked out, gone, oh, maybe I dismember her. Getting to the head, realised how difficult it is to dismember a body, and then maybe freaked out and gone, blah. But yeah, it does feel very staged to display someone like that.
But then also it's, if you've gone to the trouble of cutting off, I feel like decapitation would be harder, both physically and emotionally, than it would be to remove limbs.
Yeah, like limbs would be but the head is just...
But you're looking at their face while you're...
Oh, you know he would have been a little and put something over her face because he wouldn't have been able to stomach looking at her. You know that 100%.
Did they find blood in his car? How did he get the body to the bridge? It would have been in his car.
Yeah, I didn't find any information for blood and stuff, so I don't know, maybe if she was just in the tarp and then because he'd kind of maybe kept her. That's the thing, I couldn't find a lot, and I guess because he pled guilty and...
I need a better timeline. I think he needs to give a better timeline. What an infuriating case.
Yeah.
Ms. Rose.
Yeah.
Infuriating case. And on that note, I'm going to go.
Yeah, goodbye.
Goodbye. Well, yeah, you can't really escape that, Michael.
No, Michael.
Sorry.
Oh.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. Any holes a goal.
So today's case.
Any holes
Any
a goal.
holes a goal. Indiana Jones.
Indy Jones. Officers would come upon a rather confronting. Come upon.
I know, they would come upon.
Blade. They had Blade photos.
Oh, Blair.
They had Blade. Possibly. Possibly.
Possibly.
Miffing.
I was miffing why.
He's miffing rough.
That he was giving between. That's such a good point.
Did you like my face like that?
I was thinking. See? It happens.
Yeah.
Only mine usually goes, whoa. You know? But they should.